The man who calls himself the Monster of Mayport may not be sane enough to stand trial.
William Wells is accused of murdering a fellow inmate at Florida State Prison in July, and that comes after convictions for killing 5 people in his Mayport trailer in 2003 and stabbing a fellow inmate to death in 2011.
And now First Coast News has learned that the judge in this high-profile murder case has ordered a psychological examination of this notorious killer. On Your Side's Ann Schindler has been tracking this case closely. She explains what a flurry of recent legal filings could mean. Ann?
The death penalty case against William Wells got more complicated last week, with motions that could either speed up or indefinitely delay the trial. Citing Wells' long history of mental health issues, the judge ordered that he undergo a mental examination. He said he found, quote, reasonable grounds to believe the defendant may be incompetent to stand trial. That assessment could delay the case, as could Wells' request to represent himself at trial. But Wells also filed a demand for a speedy trial, as allowed by law, which would require a trial date be set within 45 days. Wells' psychological evaluation must be completed by next week. He's due back in court for a hearing on all the recent motions on December 13th. Ann Schindler, First Coast News, on your side.